It's Wednesday, and you're listening to Warlock Wednesday on anyotherpodcast.com.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Warlock Wednesday with Razor, the Warlock Hour. And gonna be a quick show today. Hopefully, I'll get all the information that I want to get in, but gonna be a quick one. So we're just gonna get right to it. Comic releases for the week from DC. We've got more of the Death of the Family series, 2 issues of this series coming out this week, Nightwing number 16 and Red Hood and the Outlaws number 16. So this continues the Death of the Family series, which will be wrapping up very shortly. In February, Batman 17 is the final book of the Death of the Family series, that the event that DC has had going on, which has been really enjoyable. I've been reading it. I've enjoyed it very much, and I'm looking forward to how this is all going to play out. Batgirl and Batman number 16 were both really good, as were Batman and Robin number 16. So 2 more coming out this Wednesday. Looking forward to that. And as I'm saying this, I must remind you that I am recording this on Monday, and that you will be listening to it on Wednesday. So I'm looking forward to picking them up on Wednesday, even though by the time you listen to this, the comics will be out. Also from DC this week, Catwoman number 16, Batwoman number 16, and Birds of Prey number 16. As you can tell, the New 52, a lot of the issues are just all around number 16 for the titles, and those are some of the titles that I'm looking forward to possibly picking up this week as well. From Marvel this week, we've got Avengers plus X-Men number 4. That's where there's one X-Men and one Avenger teamed up for half the book for a short story, and then for the other half it's another Avenger and another X-Men teamed up. You know, it's just little short stories, nice little kind of maybe mending the fences from AVX. Also this week, Avengers number 3 from the Marvel Now. These are all Marvel Now titles that I'm going to be talking about. Deadpool number 4, Uncanny Avengers number 3, and one that I'm looking forward to checking out and seeing if it's going to be any good is Young Avengers number 1. So those are the issues from Marvel. From the independents, normally I usually take a top 5. I went a little different. I went 6, just because there was some good independent comics coming out this week from Dynamite Entertainment, Army of Darkness number 9, and Bionic Woman number 7. And from IDW Publishing, Judge Dredd number 3, Star Trek Countdown to Darkness number 1, which I'm guessing is a issue that's going to lead us into the new Star Trek movie coming out in May. So maybe I might pick this up, even if my local comic book store holds it. Also, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Secret of the Foot Clan number 2, which is a 4-part miniseries. So that's number 2. And Witchblade number 163. For any of you Witchblade fans out there, I know that at the end of this there's a website given where you can send emails. For any of you Witchblade comic book readers out there, I would like to maybe pick this comic book up, but I'd need a good jumping on point. So if you can make some suggestions, that would be great. Anyway, that is the comic releases for this week. Not too much that I'm looking forward to other than the Death of the Family ones. Young Avengers, of course, but again, those are the issues that are coming out this week, and hope you enjoy them. Okay, moving on quickly to movie news. The box office numbers, I'm going to take a look at those, top 10. Jessica Chastain is having a fabulous weekend. In the States this weekend, it is a long weekend because of Martin Luther King Jr. Day being today, Monday. But the numbers are in for the 3-day weekend part. And number 1 on the list, Mama, with $28.5 million. Big numbers for a semi-horror flick that you wouldn't expect to see maybe, but she definitely has been raking in the dough for movies, because number 2 this week is the Zero Dark 30 movie. So Jessica Chastain is starring in the top 2 movies for this week's rankings. Last week, Zero Dark 30 was, of course, number 1. Jumping up 7 spots to number 3, Silver Linings Playbook with a a percentage increase of 114%. It also did add 1,700 screens. So it's open to more markets, and that's due to the Oscar buzz. Silver Linings Playbook won some Golden Globes. It's won 3, I believe, Golden Globe Awards. So, I mean, Silver Linings Playbook is definitely on the rise right now, and it's been out for 10 weeks, but like I said, in the beginning, especially the first 5 to 6 weeks, it was under 200 screens. So it wasn't going to bring in big bucks because it wasn't in enough theaters. It was only in like major markets in both the US and Canada, and it wasn't bringing in the numbers. The budget on this movie is $21 million. It has made $54.7 million, so it's definitely been great for it. This movie, with the Oscar buzz, jumped 7 spots this week. I mean, that right there tells you that people are going to see this movie now that it's in more theaters, and they're happy that it's in more theaters, and they're showing that they are. And it made $10.7 million. I forgot to say what Zero Dark 30 made, and that was 15.8. In 4th spot, dropping 1 spot this week, was Gangster Squad at $8.6 million. One of the new films is number 5, Broken City at $8.2 million. That's starring Russell Crowe, Marky Mark, corrupt cops, corrupt mayor type thing. Dropping from number 2 is Haunted House, the comedy spoof by the Wayans brothers, spoofing horror flicks like Paranormal Activity and all that kind of stuff. They dropped down to number 6 at $8.1 million. Django Unchained is at 7 with $7.7 million. Les Mis is at 8, and it made $7.5 million. And it seems that Arnie fans are still out there, just not coming out in droves, because Arnold's new film, The Last Stand, came in 9th with $6.1 million. Kind of respectable, but I think when you have Arnold Schwarzenegger in a film, you're hoping for more business. And rounding out the top 10, The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, bringing in another $6.1 million. And just as a little side note, number 20 this week was Skyfall. The only reason I'm mentioning it is because it cracked the $300 million mark, as I said it would. So it does make its $300 million, as I thought it might, break that barrier. The next one to probably break that barrier will be The Hobbit, and probably won't do it this coming weekend. It needs $13 million, so average it out. I'd say 2 to 3 more weeks, and it'll crack the $300 million as well. So that's your top 10 movie listings for this week. So really quickly going to give you the new releases for this coming Friday, that being Friday the 25th of January. 3 movies. All 3 of these I want to see. They look great for what they are in their own way. Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, Jeremy Renner is in it, and that alone is good enough for me. After watching the trailers, I even want to see it more. This movie looks fantastic. Lots of action-packed, lots of blood. It's awesome, so I'm looking forward to that. Also coming out this week, Parker, starring Jason Statham. I will see any movie this man does because, let's face it, he just kicks ass. Even if there's not always the greatest storyline, I always like Jason Statham movies, so I definitely want to see Parker. And the third movie coming out this week, Movie 43, which is kind of like a SNL-esque type movie. It's going to be a lot of like skits and shorts thrown in to make a movie, and the cast is humongous. I'm not even going to name them all, but it's just amazing. And the one thing I will mention about the cast is Gerard Butler playing a dwarf. Not even a dwarf, like a gnome. He's like 2 feet tall. So that just looks hilarious. And all 3 of these movies are going to be movies that I definitely want to see. So that's your movie news as far as top 10 and new releases. So I have some more entertainment news that I'd like to get into right now. We have talk that Gremlins could see a reboot. I don't like this. The 3 R's are the thing for Hollywood nowadays. It's reboot, reimagining, or remake. All 3 basically mean the same thing, but they use the different words interchangeably, and they want to reboot Gremlins. Now, being a child of the 80s, I enjoyed this movie very much. It was a good Christmas movie for some people. I loved watching it anytime because it was such a great movie. The sequel wasn't as good, but still enjoyable. It's just, why? Why can't studios come up with better ideas? Part of the reason is probably the economic climate. Studios don't want to give new ideas the money to make these movies because they could fail. So they're going to stick to what they know. They're going to adapt books. They're going to make remakes. They're going to make reboots. They're going to make reimaginings. That's what they're going to do because that's what they know works. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that they're rebooting Gremlins because when you think about it, it's going to be something's going to get rebooted, so why not Gremlins, right? But I mean, how far can you take this? I guess we'll see reboots, remakes, or reimaginings of movies that only came out 10 years ago. Oh wait, we already saw that. Spider-Man already got a reboot, and it did really well. So, who knows? I'll probably end up seeing it depending on how the trailers are. Now, this is all rumor, so we may not even see it. I don't know if there's any interest in a Gremlins reboot. Most of the kids these days probably have no idea what Gremlins are or what a Mogwai is or who Gizmo is. Gizmo to them is probably like some kind of contraption. That's a gizmo. But no, I don't know if this is going to work, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes. A little bit of nerd news. One of the original Batmobiles used in the Adam West Batman TV series in 1966 sold at an auction this past weekend for $4.6 million. That's about the same price as the Aston Martin DB5 that Sean Connery drove in Goldfinger sold for. So, I mean, I guess there's a precedence here. But that is absolutely amazing. When you consider that this vehicle was made on a $15,000 budget, which is basically transforming a Lincoln Futura concept car into the iconic Batmobile that we know at least from the TV series, the original 1966 Batman TV series. It's just amazing that it sold for $4.6 million. Somebody, the person who bought it was a businessman and car collector. I'm hoping he's also a Batman fan because I think this car should only be in the hands of a Batman fan. Because let's face it, it's the first ever Batmobile that was actually made and worked. So, yeah, I'm just hoping that it's a Batman fan who actually bought it. Now, something that just got me angry a little bit before I came to record this podcast this week, I posted something about an article that I read that they released an image from the new RoboCop remake, and there's that word again, remake, of the EM-208, which is going to be in the movie, and I said that it looks like the Iron Man suit. And so far, the images they have released, the RoboCop suit looks like Batman's suit from the Batman trilogy that Christopher Nolan did, and looks a lot like the Batman suit with a helmet on, basically. And now the EM-208 looks a hell of a lot like an Iron Man suit from the Iron Man movies, almost like a prototype one where there's no paint on it yet. But not the first one that he builds in the desert, but kind of like the second, the Mach 2, the Mach 3, those kind of ones. And I mentioned that the more I see of this movie, I find that it's just stealing crap from other movies. It's not trying to be RoboCop, it's just trying to steal as much shit as it can from other films and seeing if they can do it. The more I see of these images, the less the suckier this movie looks. And then somebody said, well, you haven't even seen a trailer yet, it might be good and you already hate it. Well, no, I didn't say I hated it. I said the more I see of the images from this movie, the less I'm inclined to think that it's going to be good. You're stealing you're stealing stuff from other films. You're stealing stuff and calling it your own. It's bullshit, and I know that if there's going to be a good side to this, is if the trailer blows my mind. And at this point, the RoboCop remake, to me, looks like shit. And Sony doing this, I don't know. I mean, Total Recall was a bomb. It failed. It was a remake. Some people enjoyed it. Some people didn't. I haven't seen it because every time... Because I work at a movie theater, and every time somebody would come out, I'd ask them. I said, which one did you like better? This one or the original starring Arnold Schwarzenegger? And 9 times out of 10, I got the Arnold Schwarzenegger. So 90% of the time, people were saying the original was better. So I've had no inclination to see the remade Total Recall. It did get some nominations for the Razzie Awards, but the thing is, when you make a remake, it's got to be better, or people are going to not come. And if people don't go to the show, then you don't make money. And if you don't make money, you're not going to get many opportunities to do what you want to do. So, I think that the more I see of this, the less I want to see the remake of RoboCop. I will wait till I see more, obviously, to make a decision, but this could really end up being another flop remake, which, I mean, a lot of remakes are. So, moving on from the bad to the good, as we all know, Marvel is producing a television show called S.H.I.E.L.D., basically focusing on the S.H.I.E.L.D. unit of the Marvel Universe. This movie is going to take place after the Avengers, and is going to include Agent Phil Coulson, played by Clark Gregg, or Greg Clark. I forget the order the name goes. But he's going to be back. It's Clark Gregg. There, I just remembered it. It's definitely Clark Gregg. I was thinking Greg Clark just because it sounds better, but it's actually Clark Gregg, and he is returning. But so I read an article on superherohype.com, not a sponsor, written by Spencer Perry, and he says the 9 things we want to see in Marvel's S.H.I.E.L.D. And number 1 is a good explanation for Coulson's return. And I agree, there should be a good explanation. Now, in the article, he mentions something about a robot body. I don't like that at all. I think that would suck. Let's face it, we did not see a dead body in the Avengers. He's not dead. Nick Fury told them not to send medical because he had it taken care of. He's still alive. And whether that's explained right away or not, I do agree that a good explanation for his return is needed, but I don't think robot body is it. I also don't think that it has to do with, although I did want it for a while, but it doesn't have anything to do with the Vision idea, because Vision obviously could be Coulson, but he has said, Clark Gregg has said that he's no interest to do that. But that was something that I had thought about when I saw him quote unquote die. However, I do think that a good explanation is definitely needed, and when you think of who's working on it, Joss Whedon, who's writing and directing the pilot, and who will be working on it with his brother and his brother's wife, there's definitely going to be a lot of good things. I mean, the man wrote Buffy and Angel and Dollhouse, all where he had guys come back from the dead, or people, not necessarily guys, because Buffy came back from the dead a couple of times. So he knows how to work it. He's had success. He is like God in the comic universe as far as movies and TV shows are concerned right now, because he has done such an amazing job with Avengers that Warner Brothers must be kicking themselves and like banging their heads against desks and computers for not letting him do a Wonder Woman movie, because look what he did for the Avengers, and now they're screwed. DC and Warner Brothers are screwed because of Joss Whedon, who is now producing 90% of, or being involved in 90% of Marvel's, especially Phase 2. I mean, you're looking at the decline of DC. And I'm sorry, a Justice League movie coming out in 2015 possibly is not going to do it. You've got to build to it, because you know what? The people are going to go see these movies. The people that are going to go see these movies are comic book fans. What you need are the non-comic book fans, and this is what Joss Whedon brings in. He brings in the non-comic book fans, and he does it like no other person. The comic book fans are already there. They're already going to watch it. Whether they bash it or not, that's a comic books fan, right? But it's the non-comic book fans that you need to come in to watch these movies, and DC and Marvel, or DC and Warner Brothers are not doing it as well as Marvel and Disney are. And I mean, yes, there's some Marvel products that aren't being done by Disney, but at the same time, they're bringing in the people a lot better. I know that the numbers, when we looked at them a few weeks ago, were very close, and that Marvel's released more movies, so they've had a lot of crappier movies. But when you really think about it, DC has two characters, Superman and Batman, that have succeeded in the movie universe. That is it. That is it. They've had two characters that have succeeded in the movie universe, and they just keep rebooting them and remaking them and reimagining them. You can only do that so much before you start to stagnate too much that Marvel's going to shoot out so far in front of you, you'll never be able to catch them. Hopefully, something like this will push them in the right direction. Moving on to the 9 things we want to see in Marvel's S.H.I.E.L.D. Number 2, S.H.I.E.L.D's origins. Now, we've had a little bit of this in the Iron Man movies, with Nick Fury saying he started the S.H.I.E.L.D. Initiative and the Avengers Initiative, but I kind of agree again with Spencer that we do need a bit of an origin of the S.H.I.E.L.D. Unit. However, at the same time, because it takes place after the Avengers, I only want to see bits and pieces of it each episode. Like a flashback, or them talking about it, or how the council that we saw in the Avengers came about. I don't want to see the first episode to just be an origin. If it's taking place after the Avengers, then do it. Fine. Give me little snippets here and there. He's done it before, Joss Whedon has, that is. He's done it as a full part of like little snippets in Angel and Buffy. He's also done it in Dollhouse, where it was like basically the whole focus of the series, really, but they only did little snippets here and there. There was like their each episode had something going on, and then there was like, okay, and now there's little, like, here's another little clue, here's another little clue, you know, and doing it like that is fine, and I'm okay with that. But yes, I do agree some origin for S.H.I.E.L.D. is definitely needed. The number 3 is the consistency. Now, here's the thing with consistency, and this is what I'm believing he's talking about. It's that if this is taking place after the Avengers, it's got to follow the timeline as closely as possible as it has with the movies. If they're going to interlink these in any way, they have to be consistent in the timelines. Now, because it's going to be a television show, and we assume that some company, some studio is going to pick it up, well, I mean, ABC should just, you know, they're right there. Disney owns ABC. So that's probably the front runner, but I mean, somebody has to pick this up and show it, because people will watch this. I guarantee you people will watch this. I'm definitely excited to see it. And by the way, it goes into production Tuesday of this week, which means yesterday for those of you listening on Wednesday, and tomorrow for me who's recording this on Monday. So they have to be consistent, but because it's going to be a week-to-week show, and the movies are only going to be coming out, you know, 2 per year for the next 3 years. We know that we got Iron Man this year, and we've got Thor this year, then we got Captain America next year, and Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014 as well, and then in 2015 we're supposed to get Ant-Man and Avengers 2. So, that all being said, I think that what they mean by consistency, and this is where I'm not entirely sure what he's meaning by it, but the continuity, I mean, when you look at the movies, they kind of follow a continuity, and the series has kind of got to stick with it. So when things happen in movies, maybe we can see a little bit of that in the TV show. Like when Iron Man 2 comes out, like, this movie is taking place after the Avengers, but Iron Man 2 is going to be released before the S.H.I.E.L.D. show would start, which is going to be in the fall. It's going to get closer to when Thor comes out, which is in November. So maybe we'll know why Coulson's back in Iron Man 3. So, I mean, there's so much there that could be done, but yes, remain consistent in the universe, and this is what Marvel and Disney are doing so well. So number 4 is the equipment. And what they mean, like, what I think he means in this article is they have lesser equipment than what we've seen in other maybe shows. They're not exactly James Bond with gadgets and stuff, but they're not exactly like just gonna have guns, like pistols. So there are some S.H.I.E.L.D. gadgets that they've gotten from Item 47 from the little short that was on the Avengers thing. They're talking about the Destroyer gun. He's talking about the Destroyer gun. So I don't know if they want to explore that too much, but some of the equipment they use is definitely things we want to see. We want to see some of these little snippets that they showed in Item 47, or the Hulkbuster armor, or the Destroyer gun, or different things that were given out in these little shorts that they released, and little things that showed up in the movies that were out there. So number 5 on the list is rivalries with other organizations. Now, I'm just going to read a little bit of what he says, okay? The S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't the only acronym that spells a weapons secret organization in the Marvel Universe. There's the European branch of S.H.I.E.L.D. called Euromind. Britain has their own version of S.H.I.E.L.D. called Strike, another one called Armor. We will probably never see these because it's supposed to be secret, and also, so far in the Marvel Universe, we've kind of stuck to the United States, so I think that is less likely. This article goes on. One more organization that stands a good chance of showing up is S.W.O.R.D. This particular acronym stands for Sentient World Observation and Response Department. They work closely with S.H.I.E.L.D. in the comic books, but they handle mostly extraterrestrial matters, and with the events of the Avengers and the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy, it seems logical that a few more aliens will be visiting Earth. Oh, and you know who created S.W.O.R.D.? Joss Whedon. That's because Joss Whedon created S.W.O.R.D. in the comic books when he was writing for Marvel. Now, I think there's also evil organizations that he doesn't mention here that possibly could pop up, and that's, I think, more what I'm looking forward with rivalries with other organizations. I mean, if you're having a rivalry, maybe you need some enemies, and enemies can be an organization too. Number 6 in this article, one-shot standalone episodes. Okay, this is like basically a short film where there could be direct relation to the movies that are coming out at the time of the episode airing, or different things that you would see like in comic books where Black Widow teams up with Iron Man or something like that, and it's just like a one-shot, one-time deal. Okay, so I'm just going to read what he says here. I'm talking in comics parlance here. I realize Marvel has already used this term for short films on the Blu-rays, but the one-shots and standalone issues are a long-standing tradition in comic books as a break between the ongoing storylines that we normally see. While it seems Marvel's S.H.I.E.L.D. will be a pretty serialized show, I'd like to see some episodes that focus singularly on one character or one event specifically, but where S.H.I.E.L.D. can differentiate itself from the other TV shows that do this by bringing in the actors from the films. And I agree. I think that we should see every now and then an actor from the films pop up and maybe have a focus episode where we can see different things going on. Marvel recently reacquired the rights to, I believe, Daredevil. So, hell, let's bring Daredevil in even for a little bit. They reacquired Punisher 2, I think. Or Punisher as well, not Punisher 2, but you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's different things we can do, and I'm just hoping that they do it nice and smoothly. Yes, it's a serialized show, but seeing what they could do if they focus on one character. Heck, even if they focus on, like, Phil Coulson for a whole episode, I think a lot of people would really enjoy that. Number 7 on the 9 things we want to see is Serious Threats. Now, it's a weekly episodic show. Here's my theory. What I think is there should be... Okay, let me clue you in on something here. I was a big Charmed fan. I loved watching the show. Now, with Charmed, every week they would fight a demon, a specific demon. However, for half a season or for a whole season, there would be one demon that would kind of be the big bad in the background, and there'd be like little snippets, and not in every episode, but in a lot of episodes, little things, and then it'd eventually lead up to like the last 2 episodes of the season or the last 2 episodes of the mid-season, and then they'd face them. I think this is what they need to do for S.H.I.E.L.D. There should be, and this is where, again, the enemy organizations can come in. A leader of an organization that could be out there, and they're fighting or doing stuff each week, and little snippets of this come in. So there needs to be some good, serious threats, and especially when you're dealing with the Marvel Universe, there are so many to choose from that you could pretty much carry this show for more than a few seasons. This show could seriously succeed and do a 7-season or a 10-season run, depending on how things go, of course. Number 8, we want to see foreshadowing. And like I said, this movie is going to be coming out after Iron Man 3, because it's going to be starting in the fall of this year. So Iron Man 3 comes out in May, fall starts in October for TV shows coming back. Now, there could be little hints, little snippets, little lead-ins to Thor, which comes out in November. And then if the show continues, which I hope it does, Captain America the Winter Soldier could have some little snippets in there too. Now, obviously, because it would be like a serialized show, it would be ending before the summer, and there'd be nothing to put in for Guardians of the Galaxy, which comes out summer of next year. However, leading in, like when you've got a TV show and it's playing around when a movie's going to be coming out, I would love to see some foreshadowing. That would just be awesome. And so finally, number 9 on this list is cameos. And as we just said at number 7, I think bringing in people from the movies, and here's one that I think could definitely work depending on scheduling. Kobe Smulders, who is still, yes, working on How I Met Your Mother, but there's definitely an opportunity here where they could bring her in for an episode. She can still guest star on an episode, depending on when the filming takes place. Samuel L. Jackson has got to be in there. I'm thinking with the first episode. That would be amazing. Bringing in Mark Ruffalo, who's not getting a Hulk movie yet, but, there's hope. There's that potential. Bringing in Captain America, Hawkeye, Black Widow, these are definite possibilities. But it's how do you do it? Do you bring them in with the full suit? Maybe you just bring in Tony Stark. Maybe you just bring in Bruce Banner. You don't have to Hulk him up. Just bring him in. Just bring Mark Ruffalo in. I don't know exactly what they can do, but I believe that they definitely have to do something with the cameos. And Disney has the money. We know they have the cash. This is something that needs to be done. So anyways, that's the 9 things we want to see in the S.H.I.E.L.D. show. Let's hope this gets picked up. Sticking with Marvel news, just released today, Toby Jones, who played Arnim Zola. He played Zola in Captain America. He is returning for Captain America the Winter Soldier. Now, people are saying, how could he return? It's 70 years after the World War II or whatever the exact time frame is. Well, in the comic books, he put his mind into... Well, he was a genetic engineer, so he put his mind, his own mental self, and put it in a robot, and that's how he survived. Now, in the movie, there are blueprints for Zola's robotic body, and if you have to look really closely, and the fact that he's appearing in the sequel suggests to me that either we're going to get a flashback, which is always possible. I mean, we're going to get it with Amazing Spider-Man 2, where Martin Sheen has already been confirmed that he's in it, which means we're going to see flashbacks of Uncle Ben. Flashbacks are definitely commonplace in comic book movies. But I think more likely we're going to see a robot Zola, and that's how he's coming back. So that's been confirmed. Okay, so moving on to sports news. We're going to do NFL first. As you know, the NFC and AFC championships were Sunday, and the 49ers and the Ravens both won their games, making my picks 1 for 2. I was glad to be wrong, though, in the one I was wrong. First of all, San Francisco defeated the Atlanta Falcons 28-24. Once again, Atlanta had a 17-0 lead and a 24-10? They had a 10-point lead going into halftime. Let me put it to you that way. It might have been 24-17 or 24-14 or something like that. Yeah, I think it was 24-14, which would make it a 10-point lead. The 49ers came out in the second half and dominated. The Falcons could not hold on to the lead once again. The 49ers came back and won the game. In the other game, the Patriots lost. Now, I picked them to win because I was basing it on statistics. I was basing it on the fact that I hate them so much, and because I hate them so much, they always seem to win. But I was rooting for the Baltimore Ravens. Like I said last week, my head said Patriots, my heart said Ravens. While my heart won and the Ravens won. They defeated the Patriots 28-13, and they dominated the second half of that game. They racked up 123 passing yards in the third quarter alone. The Patriots could barely move the ball. They were getting a lot of 3-and-outs. They were getting a lot of punts in. They turned the ball over. The Ravens, with Ray Lewis in his final year, are going to the Super Bowl, setting up a Super Bowl for February 3rd. Now, here's my beef with this. In Canada, we play on a bigger field. We use only 3 downs instead of 4. And we play the Grey Cup, which is the CFL Championship, a week after the semifinals, so to speak, the conference championships. 1 week. We have to wait 2 weeks for the Super Bowl. We get the stupid Pro Bowl in between. So next Sunday, January 27th, when I'll be watching the Royal Rumble, there will be a AFC versus NFC All-Star Game, Pro Bowl, whatever you want to call it. And then the following week is the Super Bowl. Now, I'm glad that the following week is the Super Bowl because of the Royal Rumble, but they would never schedule those two things together anyways. If the Super Bowl was on the 27th, the Royal Rumble would have been on the 20th. Either way, 2 weeks to wait for the Super Bowl. And I think that's wrong. I think you should be out there next week playing the Super Bowl like any other football week. It's just ridiculous because, this week leading into the Pro Bowl is going to be nothing but garbage as far as football's concerned. And the week leading into the Super Bowl is so much media coverage and everything. And I think that's why they do it like this. They want as much media as they possibly can. But I'm sick and tired of having to wait 2 weeks for the Super Bowl. But unfortunately, I'm just a fan, so I have to deal with it just as much as the next person. So, yeah, that kind of sucks. My prediction? This is tough. Both teams... Oh, one thing I want to add before I make my prediction. The coaches for these teams are brothers. You got Jim Harbaugh in San Francisco and John Harbaugh for the Baltimore Ravens. So it's the Harbaugh Super Bowl. That's right. The families are going to be torn apart because one brother's going to win it and the other brother's not. One brother's getting a ring, the other brother's not. So that in and of itself will be some interesting comments, I'm sure. But here's my pick. I'm picking... Damn, this is hard. I'm going to pick the San Francisco 49ers to win. Now, I would not be surprised to see the Baltimore Ravens win. In fact, I would love to see Ray Lewis get a ring to end his career. Now, he has one, so it's not like he's never won a Super Bowl. However, to go out to retire as a champion is always great. That being said, San Francisco looked really good last week. They looked good the week before. They've looked good pretty much all season long. So I'm picking San Francisco because I think that's what's going to happen. But again, this is so close to call that I would never be disappointed with a Ravens win. You know, I always say this in a Super Bowl, especially since my team hasn't been there since like 1993 or 4, and that's, I want a good game. I want a game that comes down to the wire because those are exciting games. If it's a blowout, they're not fun to watch. So I want a good game, and I think with these two teams it will be a very defensive game, but at the same time it could be a very offensive game because both these teams have receivers that could definitely, like, just, they can tear it up. They have quarterbacks that can tear it up. Kaepernick has hooked up with so many good plays. He rushed for 181 yards 2 weeks ago. Flacco is hooked up with Torrey Smith and Daniel Pitta, or David Pitta, so many times. Like, I mean, it's just, it could be explosive, and it could also be a very defensive game. So I'm looking forward to just a very good game. Pardon me while I take a drink. Alright, moving on to the NHL. The NHL is back as of Saturday. It came back, and my Toronto Maple Leafs won their first game against the Montreal Canadiens. That being said, they did lose tonight against the Buffalo Sabres, making them a 1-1 team. However, the reason why I like the fact that they beat the Montreal Canadiens on Saturday is because I have a long-standing bet with a friend of mine where we bet $5 to see which team could win the season series against each other. So every year for the last 5 years we've bet, and every year for the last 5 years it's been a tie because the first year of the bet they played 8 times. Well, each team won 4. Nobody won the bet. For the next 4 years they played 6 times. Each team won 3 times each year. Nobody wins the bet. So everybody's saying like Toronto's better than Montreal, Montreal's better than Toronto. I have a 5 year anyway proof that says, no, they're pretty dead even. They're pretty dead even, considering they've split the season series for the last 5 years for a grand total of, let me just figure this out here, how many games they've played over the last 5 years. Okay, so they played 8. Okay, let me see here. 8 plus... Sorry, this is taking so long. 32 games. So in 32 games, they're 16-16. That's an identical record. They're dead even. So you know what, Habs fans? You know what, Leafs fans? Yes, as a fan, you want to see your teams better, but in actuality, the numbers say they're dead even. Now, this year, because of the shortened season, they're only playing 48 games this year. Montreal and Toronto play only 5 times. That means somebody is winning this bet because there are no ties in hockey anymore. They go to a shootout. So there will be no ties. Somebody will win this bet because somebody's going to win at least 3 games. The reason why I loved Saturday, Toronto has the head start. They've won game 1. They play 4 more times and they need to win twice. It's doable because 3 of those 4 games are in Toronto and only 1 is in Montreal. They beat Montreal on Saturday in Montreal already. But like I said, these teams are dead even. This could come down to a 2-2 split, last game of the season, winner take all. That's what it's come down to almost every year. And it's been a tie. This year somebody's going to win. Now, getting into the hockey news, there are a lot of surprises so far this year. There's a lot of teams that are not performing as well as they want to. There's a lot of teams that are performing better than they probably were expected. But you look at, for example, the Philadelphia Flyers are 0-2. The New York Rangers are 0-2. Who else is 0-2? Phoenix is 0-2. Now, these are all playoff teams from last year sitting at the bottom of the standings right now. And that's what happens in a 48-game season. It's a sprint. You need to win games quick, because you know what? You could be losing. Here's one that I'm kind of enjoying in a way, I guess. Vancouver is 0-2. Oh, sorry, they're 0-1-1 because they've lost and they've lost in overtime. So they do have 1 point, so that puts them better than some teams. But they've had to pull their goalie already, which means Roberto Luongo is probably not going anywhere anytime soon, or he's going to be going somewhere soon so that they can, establish Schneider as their number one goalie. But I'm just thinking that it's going to be very weird season. Teams are going to get in that you wouldn't expect. Teams are going to be out that you wouldn't expect. Now, like I said, Toronto's 1-1. That right now has them in the playoffs. So who knows how the season's going to turn out. The only bad news is three of their teams that are in their division are ahead of them because they've won both their games so far. Boston's 2-0, Buffalo's 2-0, and Ottawa's 2-0. They need to beat these teams. You're going to be seeing these teams a lot. You're playing all games in your own conference. You don't play against the other conference. Toronto needs to be good against their own conference. Can they do it? I doubt it. But they need to try. There's going to be teams that are going to be surprises this year, and I want Toronto to be one of them. So that's the NHL side of things. I'm going to move on to one last thing for this week, and that's the Royal Rumble. Now, there's not too many matches announced yet, just because they usually announce some leading up to the Royal Rumble, and since I record on Mondays, the Royal Rumble will already have happened by the time next week rolls around. So here are my predictions from what is known. The WWE Tag Team Champions, Team Hell No, which is Kane and Goatface. Sorry, Daniel Bryan. Kane and Daniel Bryan versus Team Rhodes Scholars, which is Damian Sandow and Cody Rhodes. I think Team Hell No actually will lose their titles at Royal Rumble. I would not be surprised if they keep them, but I'm predicting a loss for the Team Hell No. I think they're going to break them up again, which I don't want to see, which is why I want them to win. But I think Team Rhodes Scholars are actually going to come away as the tag champs. The World Heavyweight Championship is on the line. Alberto Del Rio, as the champion, takes on the Big Show. I predict that Big Show will win. No, I'm not going to do that. Here's what I'm going to do. Alberto Del Rio is going to win. However, Mr. Dolph Ziggler is going to cash in his Money in the Bank, and he will leave Royal Rumble as the World Heavyweight Champion. That's what I think. I'm predicting that Dolph Ziggler will be the World Heavyweight Champion at the end of Royal Rumble. Now, there's two big matches left. WWE Champion CM Punk versus The Rock. Now, here's the problem with this. It's hard to predict because everybody knows that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, is also a movie star and has definitely a full slate on his schedule in the coming months. If he wins, what does that do to the WWE title? That means the WWE title is leaving with a guy who is barely there. Now, I'm not sure what his schedule is. I'm not sure if he can make it work. Perhaps he wins the title here and then loses it at the next pay-per-view. I'm predicting a Rock victory. But I'm predicting a Rock victory by way of countout or disqualification or something along the lines where CM Punk keeps the title. And I think The Rock's going to win, but at the same time, I don't see Punk losing the title. So it's hard to say what's going to happen in this match. I really hope that they don't screw it up. I think this has the potential to be a really great match. But at the same time, I think The Rock's not going to walk away with the title. I want to see him win the title. I just don't see it because I know what's going on outside of WWE, and most people do too, so it's hard to say. Now, to the big match, the 30-man Royal Rumble match. My prediction for this year's winner, John Cena. John Cena's been held down this past year. He's had some injuries. CM Punk's been the guy. I think we're going to see this 2013 be more of a John Cena era. John Cena is going to win the Rumble, and that's my prediction. So that's my predictions on what is announced. Like I said, there's going to be more matches added. I'm sure there'll be a Divas title match. I'm sure there'll be there might be an Intercontinental title match. There might be a U.S. title match. Right now, there's no other matches officially announced. So that's what I have to go with as far as my predictions. And that, folks, wraps up another Warlock Hour with Razor, because that is it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the show, and remember to visit another podcast, EHNOTHER podcast.com, for all your podcast needs. Another Monday, Real Tuesday, and Warlock Wednesday. Have a good night, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the podcast, anotherpodcast.com. It's where you can find your network. This is a network now. Mondays is Another Podcast. Tuesdays, Real Music with OJ and myself. Wednesdays is Warlock Wednesdays with Ray. We're starting off, we're going good, so we need you to participate. Yes, you can email anotherpodcast@gmail.com. You can send us in any questions that you would like us to answer, things to talk about on another podcast or Real Music, or I can forward them on to Ray for Warlock Wednesdays. Also, there's a YouTube channel, Another Podcast on YouTube. You just look up Another Podcast. There's some videos uploaded already. We're hoping to go strong with that and some other projects we have on the go. So we are trying to build a network. We're trying to go 7 days a week. So Sundays is already taking. It will be starting up soon. Comics with Mikey, I think I'm going to call it. Comics with Mikey. And then that won't necessarily be a podcast. It's going to be an actual comic strip that you can go and read on Sundays. So we need 4 other shows: Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Wait, that's 3. Yeah, we only need 3. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we need some independent podcasters out there who want to podcast for free. Yeah, that's right. Free. That's what I'm doing for you. I'm going to host it. I'm paying for it. I want to get my money's worth out of what I've paid for. So if you are Canadian, that's the one rule. Maybe we'll do one import. Just like the Canadian Football League, we'll have an import player. So, but I'll work that out later. So if you want to podcast once a week for free, anotherpodcast@gmail.com. Email me, hit me up, and we will work on it. I'll get you the details. Try to talk you through what I know, which is limited. No, it's not that bad. And we'll make it easy for you. Things are going good. The website's getting hits. I love it. I love you for listening to it, if I can speak plain English today. Thanks for listening. anotherpodcast.com. Another Podcast on Twitter. So you just go Another Podcast. And you can also follow me at The Real APOC on Twitter. So thanks for listening. Come back every day for more. Thank you very much. Bye.